Red Ray Gun Limited presents
The Benji and Nick Show. Hello.
Hello.
Oh, good morning, Nick.
Good morning, Benji.
Excuse me? It was good afternoon, Nick.
Good evening, Benji.
Good day to you, sir.
And may I offer you some good gravy?
Oh, yes. Well, goodness gracious me.
Loch Ness.
Oh, yeah, never mind. Oh, well. Well, that's that over and done with, isn't it?
It's the Benji and Nick Show.
Welcome. Come in, take your shoes off, take them off. So we've just had this hoovered. We don't want you ruining the carpet.
Yeah,
Right, Nick, what do we do anyway on this podcast?
Well, we talk about cult television, we talk about old television, and we talk about some modern television. It's sort of television, really, and matters arising, and movies sometimes. I mean, last week or the week before last, whenever, 2 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago,
5 years ago,
we mentioned The Eagle Has Landed, for example. Yeah.
You know, and we did Kelly's Heroes as well. We were talking about that one, but we kind of we talk about what's going on, things that we like, things that you like, and ask us to see and whatnot.
I mean, here's something to talk about. I mean, let's just say what we're going to talk about is the first episode, or maybe two. I watched the first two episodes of the 1966 Batman TV series starring Adam West and Burt Ward as the dynamic duo.
So good.
That's what we're going to be talking about. Yeah, delightful, actually. That's what we're going to be talking about. But something I want to talk about is two completely unrelated things that may or may not interest you, that have just come into my head that I've wanted to talk about for the last few podcasts. And by the time I finish talking about it, you'll be thinking, why on earth did he waste our ear space talking about this? But let me tell you this. My theory is... No. Did I tell you about a telephone box in Southampton in the late 1970s?
Right.
Did I tell you about this?
No.
Okay. Well, there was this telephone box in Southampton in the late 1970s when I was doing my A-levels. And it was near where I did my A-levels at the Southampton Technical College in St Mary's in Southampton. And there used to be up the one end of St Mary's a big roundabout. I don't think it's there now. I think it's all been concreted over, changed into a spaceport or something.
It happens.
And of course, our whole lives in those days were dominated by telephone boxes because we didn't have mobile phones. So if you were out and about and you wanted to phone home or you wanted to phone a friend, you had to go to a phone box. So it's very important. You sort of navigated your life by it, you know. And so this particular phone box, I don't know why I was in it, and I can't even remember who I was calling. But I remember I put a 2p in the slot, doot, 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 as it used to go, and had the conversation, chatting away, and 2p would last you just a couple of minutes or something.
It's quite good for 2p.
10p was more. Obviously 10p is more than 2p. It's fundamental mathematics. Do you know what I discovered from the Benji and Nick Show? That 10p is more than 2p.
Good grief. You're a genius.
Good gravy. It got you more time. That's what I'm saying, obviously.
It buys you more time. Sorry.
Oh, hey. quite literally.
Quite literally buys you more time.
I realised I've been talking for quite some time, perhaps even as long as I've been going on about absolutely bog all at the moment. And I hadn't got the doot 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 which you got when you'd run out of money and you had to feed another one in. But it was just going on. And I remarked to whoever I was talking to, I've put 2p in and it's like been 10 minutes. What's going on? Oh, well, never mind. I carried on. And then I spoke, I don't know, for about 45 minutes, an hour or something.
You're joking, really?
We spoke. It wasn't a monologue.
On 2p?
On 2p.
That's madness.
Isn't that amazing? Right.
You're going to have British Telecom now phoning you up saying,
you actually you owe us about 48p. You fiend.
Cut to a couple of years later, I just happened to be in the same area and went into the same phone box, put 2p in, and remarked to the person I was talking to, "Oh God, I was in this phone box a couple of years ago. Do you know what? The 2p lasted me it never ran out. I had a really long phone conversation. It never ran out. Do you know what? Exactly the same thing happened again. How
strange.
So for all those years, however many years it was, that phone box, I mean, who's going to report that? No one's going to report that to BT.
No, not at all.
In fact, it wasn't called BT then. It was the post office.
Of course, yeah.
It hadn't been privatised at that point. Yeah, it was the general post office ran the phones. So yeah. How weird is that?
That is strange. Things like that do happen, don't they? But that's particularly strange.
But this phenomenon of things going on for longer than can be reasonably expected,
like the podcast,
this ridiculous anecdote. It has another branch to it, this ridiculous anecdote, because something that reminded me of it happened around about the beginning of this year.
Okay.
And is continuing to this moment. I've got one of those containers of shaving gel.
Okay.
But you don't take the lid off. What you do is you twist it round, and then the nozzle which dispenses the gel becomes level with a gap.
Oh, I know.
And then
those
you press
types,
the top, and it comes out. And to shut it, you just twizzle the nozzle back to the left or right again. So I got into a position with this shaving gel at the beginning of this year when it was, I was having to press really hard and only a little bit was coming out. I thought, I said to Steph, have we got any more shaving gel? She said, yeah, it's upstairs in the cupboard. Oh, brilliant. I said, this one's on its last legs. And she greeted that comment with the, fascination it deserved. 0. So, well, you know what I'm going to say, don't you? As the weeks went past, I thought, it's probably run out. I pressed the button. A bit more came out. Even now, nearly 6 months later, it is still dispensing enough gel every time to get a shave out of it.
It's remarkable, isn't it?
It had run out in January, and I think that this gel is the reincarnation of that phone box. I feel that's the only reasonable conclusion.
It must be. It's all about getting something for nothing, isn't it, really? Or something for very little.
I mean, I think that it's, about as true as the Mandela effect.
Yeah, well, I mean, what do we call it? We call it, I suppose, the 2p effect. The phone box effect.
But, of course, my point about this is really that, if we lived in the Elizabethan age, I mean the first Elizabethan age, for example, and accepting the massive anachronisms of phone boxes and shaving gel existing, I would believe all sorts of weird things associated with this.
Witchcraft.
Wouldn't I? Yeah.
Yeah, you would. You'd say it's been blessed by a god or...
Yeah.
Whereas
nowadays we just say, well, if we're sensible... But I find that there are fewer and fewer sensible people. We just say, well, it's just a coincidence. It's just some weird thing that's going on. Obviously, there's a little bit more space in that shaving gel tube than you would expect. And there was something malfunctioning with that phone box, which no one reported because everyone thought, wow, I can get endless phone calls for 2p. Yeah. And who's gonna dob that into the authorities?
What
I can
if,
think of a couple of people who would. But.
What if Steph, without telling you, replaced said bottle with an identical bottle?
What, with only a bit left in it?
Oh, yeah, well...
I've got the next one,
so it's like an empty...
on the shelf. I got it down from upstairs and it's on the shelf.
You've dusted it off. There.
And ready. I said to Steph, I brought this one down to intimidate the old one into finishing. So suddenly I'm imbuing these shaving gel cans with some kind of personality. I'll be telling you next that the earth is flat.
Well, it is flat, isn't it?
It's my flat.
I was walking along yesterday, actually, and was actively thinking to myself, how can anybody think this place is flat? Because I was walking up a bloody massive hill, and I just think, but I know that's a stupid argument.
I think you've missed the point.
I know that, but I was just looking around and thinking, this is just a globe, isn't it? We live in the globe. I was looking up at the sky, thinking this is a globe.
Well, I mean, and it's, of course, that particular issue has been brought up in Russell T Davies's brilliant Years and Years that we were discussing before the podcast.
Yeah.
You know, where his Russell Tovey's partner is starting to veer towards believing that the Earth is flat.
Terrifying.
And you say, well, I'm just keeping an open mind, and you think, no, keeping an open mind, that's not keeping an open mind. Like believing that my shaving gel and phone box thing is maybe supernatural. That's not keeping an open mind.
That's having an incredibly closed mind. Actually, is it? I think.
Well, I don't know what it is.
That's being open-minded to very closed-minded things. Like I think that the flat Earth theory is a closed-minded theory. There's no.
Well, is it? Yeah, you might as well have a banana Earth theory and a shaped like my Spitfire toy over there Earth theory.
Well, now that would make more sense to me. You know, I would say we're on the tail end, and China's on the propeller, and I don't know.
Well, all this makes more sense than I can possibly convey.
I mean, I find with the flat Earth theory. With the flat Earth theory, I think that more people now believe the Earth is flat than people did in medieval times. Like even they reached a conclusion that, well, I don't think the Earth is flat. Actually,
isn't that because there are just many more people now in the world?
I think I blame the internet. I just blame the internet because.
But our population is so much larger that I'd be interested to know the proportion of people who believed it in the Middle Ages and the proportion of people who believe it now.
Well, it's like I saw a thing the other day
I
saying
the internet for everything.
that Norway is leading the way with electric cars, and more people have bought electric cars in this past year. Like X amount of people have bought electric cars, and I was thinking, well, that sounds all good and well, but when you actually take into the proportion of people in that country, there's not many people in that country, and if it doesn't mean that a huge, vast amount of them are doing it. It just means that this large number of people, in proportion to everybody else,
it's a bit like saying everyone in that house down the road is going to buy this particular product. I mean, everyone in that house. There are 3 people in that house.
Exactly.
Oh, right.
It's like saying loads and loads of people use that sweet shop. And we're thinking, well, no, it's just the people in that area. The sweet shop happens to be on an estate, and so lots of people go to that sweet shop. If it was in the middle of the countryside, in the middle of nowhere, I dare say not as many people would go to that sweet shop.
This is the Sweet Shop Effect, a new series from Benji Clifford.
Yes, it's a very complicated theory I'm actually putting out there now.
Which
a friend will lose his brother's hammer that was put there only just the night before, around 6 o'clock tea time. And there'll be a strange confusion as to where things really are. Those things with the sort of raffia work base. I love it so much. It's so wonderfully boring.
The life of Brian.
But this just proves, we could be Quakers, you and I. Just sit and think about things. That's what they do, isn't it? But anyway, interesting story that is, Nick. I liked it.
Well, I mean, it's a broad usage of the word interesting, isn't it?
I would challenge you to find said phone box if it still exists.
I'm pretty certain it doesn't.
Oh, that's sad, isn't it? I've seen that there's a thing like they're selling phone boxes to people now. You can sponsor a phone box and stuff like that.
Do you know, I was watching the first episode of Sherlock last night.
Oh, yeah.
Because I hadn't seen it for years. It is an incredible piece of work, but there's a bit in the story where Dr. Watson goes walking away from a crime scene, and a telephone box nearby, the phone rings. And he thinks, that's odd. Carries on walking. And then a phone rings in a laundrette as he's walking by. He thinks, that's odd. And he walks along again. And another phone box rings. And it's Mycroft Holmes watching him on CCTV and getting him to accept a lift to go and have a meeting with him in a car park. But I thought, that's not viable now.
Why doesn't he just ring
a
his
few
mobile
years
phone?
ago. Well, that's a very good point. But it's not viable now. He's demonstrating a point that he's watching him. That's what he's doing. Because he says, when he's in the phone box, Mycroft's on the phone saying, look to your left, there's a CCTV camera, and they move that. And he said, look to your right, up on the building, and he makes 3 or 4 CCTV cameras face away, and then a car comes to pick him up. So basically he's saying, I know exactly where you are, and I can make sure that no one witnesses what is about to happen to you. He's grandstanding. But the point is that wouldn't work in a script now, because the first thing that script editors would say is there aren't that many functioning payphones anymore.
There aren't anymore.
I mean, none of those phone boxes are probably in existence anymore. And the idea of there being a phone at a laundrette anymore, when everyone sits in a laundrette with their mobile devices now, you just don't have those things.
Well, there are fewer and fewer now, aren't there, than ever before. And you can see, it's like in stations. I remember in my station now, I remember there used to be one of those wonderful 60s sort of phone kiosks, with they were like a sort of like a sort of circular thing, wasn't it? Like half of it that you cover your face and you walk into.
Yes.
Like that great
sort of
the two Ronnies sketch where they're both on the phone.
The robotising device.
The robotising devices, yes, well, quite.
The two Ronnies sketch.
But that's gone now. It's completely gone.
What was the two Ronnies thing you were going to say?
Oh, it was a great sketch, the two Ronnies sketch, when they're at an airport or a station, and they both go into this double phone kiosk thing, and one person's on the phone, asking questions, and then the other person next to them is answering these questions, and
but they're different.
They're different. They're different answers, and I think the gag at the end is you find that they are talking to each other, or it might not be. I can't remember, but it's really well done.
Those two Ronnies,
But yeah, that's world's different.
Talking
now,
of successful partnerships, Batman and Robin. Should we go into Batman?
Yes, we should.
Hi diddle diddle. The first episode. Now, well, come on, tell me about it.
Well, what, as in what it's about, or just in general? Batman, the theory of Batman. Well, for all of you that don't know, I'm surprised there's many people out there that don't know. This is the 1966 Batman series with Adam West and Burt Ward. Amazing, pioneering series. It's a complete load of old nonsense, but in the most wonderful way. It's a bit of a magical.
They made it nonsense on purpose.
They made it nonsense on purpose, but it's nonsense which is executed impeccably. And obviously, for all of you out there that have been living under rocks or in the sky, Batman and Robin are the Cape Crusaders, two superheroes fighting crime in Gotham City.
They don't have any superpowers, though, do they? They just have lots of tech.
They just have lots of good tech on a utility belt and a great car, and the funding
that car's amazing.
Funding of lots of money.
It makes that noise, doesn't it? As it starts.
It's great. It's so good. And they face a whole host of crazy villains. In this case, the Riddler, of course, played by thingy Gershwin, isn't it?
Gershwin,
Frank Gershwin.
Yeah, who's amazing, isn't he?
Who's brilliant. He's absolutely nails it.
Would you like to describe the plot of this episode?
Certainly, which in itself is bananas as well. It's all about basically what happens is that Batman and Robin are put onto a riddle by the Riddler, and essentially are drawn to a location where the Riddler is, according to them, robbing a man at gunpoint. However, they soon learn that in fact what they are witnessing is not the Riddler about to shoot somebody, but the Riddler has a lighter in the shape of a gun, and he's merely negotiating the handover of an item, in this case a gold cross, is it, which belongs to him. He sets up Batman and Robin and subsequently files a lawsuit against them
for false arrest and defamation of character or something,
which equates to about $1 million.
Yeah, I don't know why that got
but then for some reason he has the audacity to continue it as well and add more riddles into the mixture, And
that's right. There are riddles. There are riddles like in infrared or something between the lines of the writ.
They
have to analyse the writ in the Bat computer, and Batman has to look at it like he looks like he's looking through a CD or something. Except CDs didn't exist in those days, and he's sort of viewing it through a CD and can see all these extra clues. I mean, you forgot to mention that the first riddle that gets them to be led into this heinous trap by the Riddler is basically I can't believe I'm saying this out loud. The Riddler hides a riddle in a cake which is being cut by the Moldavian Prime Minister, which when he cuts into it at a celebration of Moldavia at the International World Fair at Gotham City, when he cuts into it, the cake explodes, but just sort of blows him over. It doesn't kill anyone, does it? Is that no one gets hurt really, and he's just left with cake all over him, looking a bit confused. And it fires a parachute up into the air, which drifts down, which is caught by a faithful policeman, and it has the riddle on it. And then you have this. So this is the first episode of it. So they had to introduce the Batman character. And so you have Commissioner Gordon and Chief O'Hara and all these other detectives standing in Commissioner Gordon's office analysing this facile riddle, and none of them can.
They don't
take
get
it
at all, do they?
They're all shaking their heads like, oh, and it's like this is so terrible. So Commissioner Gordon has to phone the red special bat phone, which doesn't have a number. You don't dial a number, you just press the button in the middle and it illuminates red. And then, of course, at Batman's stately Wayne Manor, the phone lights up and oh goodness me! What's the name of? What's it? Wayne. What's his name?
Bruce Wayne.
Bruce Wayne. That's right. Bruce Wayne.
Bruce Wayne.
Batman is really Bruce Wayne, of course. Sorry to reveal that.
Just
folks.
a tour de force of a show.
But it's just like, because they made a decision, didn't they, when they wrote this? Like, it doesn't matter. That's what they thought. It's just, they thought it's a comic book series, so let's make it overly comic. But what really sells it is that the performances are all done. This ludicrous nonsense is being spoken with such commitment.
Oh, it's yeah. I mean, I would actually go so far as to say that if nobody could have done this in quite the way that Adam West does it.
He is
Adam
amazing.
West is so incredible with this. You believe everything he says. Absolutely everything. I mean, I'm sure there must have been plenty of takes where they were creasing up laughing, but he's just completely straight, completely committed to these lines, and sells it so perfectly. I mean,
yes.
I love it so much. I mean, all that business in this one where they cut the bars of the window, and Robin goes to throw it off the side, and Batman says, "Robin, no, pedestrians. Think of the pedestrian safety." And then he gets out a hook from his belt, puts it on the wall, and they hang it up. It's just so stupid, but it's taken so seriously. I love it to bits.
It reminds me of another episode I always remember watching where Robin nearly falls off a wall. They were always doing these things when they're walking up walls. And, of course, the way they do it is they just film them walking along the ground and they just put the camera on its side so it looks like they're walking up a wall. And Robin manages to save himself by sort of biting hold of the end of the rope, and Batman's able to pull him up by pulling up with his hand, and he says, "You owe your life to dental medication."
It is all this sort of just like, always drink your milk, isn't it? It's all these sort of
exactly.
really bogus sort of corny messages.
And Batman, they're such goody-goodies, aren't they? They can be so easily outwitted by villains if they sort of... why doesn't Batman contest this ridiculous assertion?
They just sort of accept the law, don't they?
They accept it because he thought he's got it, because he gets these two people along to take photographs of it, to put it. The press arrive, don't they, with their fedora hats and their huge cameras with big flashes, and immediately just when Batman's kind of wrestling to put the bat cuffs on the Riddler, these guys come in and go and take photos. The funny thing is, of course, they take photos from one angle, but when the photos are later shown, funnily enough, laugh. They're from the angle that the film camera shooting the scene was
so silly, isn't it?
That annoyed me.
Yeah, well, imagine, I would be worried if it didn't annoy you, Nick.
The music is sublime, isn't it? It's so beautifully done, of its time and all that.
Oh, it's great. I mean, it's jazzy, it's fun, it's serious, and it's just. I mean, I love it. I've got the soundtrack to the movie. It's on iTunes, and it's all
they did a movie version of it, didn't they?
They did, yeah, and it's all the same stuff. It's it is superb. I just adore it. I mean, I love all this stuff as well, like where because of course when I was a kid, as I remember you were saying about Ben, I completely believed all this, didn't see any of the silliness. And just, it was Batman. It was just a live series of Batman. I was completely like, this is great. This is just Batman. And then you watch it now, and there's so many elements of utter ludicrous comedy. I mean, even the subtle things like Robin and all they always have these elaborate excuses for them going off fighting crime, like the fishing trips and we're just gotta go fishing. After he stops a meeting and runs off to go fishing and they never get it. Aunt Harriet never gets it.
And I love the fact that one of Alfred the butler's main concerns about Batman being revealed is that Aunt Harriet will never be able to take it. He's not concerned about anything else.
She'll just be cross that he lied about where Dick is, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes. What do you think about the effect that this had on Adam West's career?
It's one of those things, isn't it?
It blighted it, didn't it?
It really did. He could have.
No one could take him seriously.
He could have been a great James Bond. I've always thought, and I think he was considered to be James Bond at one point. He's a handsome guy, a good actor, a crazy bloke. But yeah, I think it's incredibly sad that it did have that effect on him. And he wasn't able to recover for quite a long time until eventually he became Adam West, and you would bring him in because he's Adam West. But,
yes, it's when an actor becomes successful for being terribly earnest in something that's totally ludicrous. Back in those days, it's like no one had a sense of humour about it and thought, well, if he's good at being that earnest with that nonsense, he's going to be a great actor just generally. But of course, because he did it for real, how would you ever? It's like the guy from Naked Gun.
Yeah.
When you go back, what's his name? I can't remember his name. Really famous, Leslie Nielsen. Yeah. Once you've seen him in Police Squad and Naked Gun, if you go back and watch his serious performances in other serious films, you just keep expecting him to do a fart joke or just say something ridiculously inappropriate. Sorry, I'm being texted by people. I don't know whether you can hear pinging.
I heard a little ping. Yeah, I think it is sad because I think that he would have contributed an awful lot. He could have done so many things. He could have been a huge movie star. Because he kind of was the total package, wasn't he? Really.
Yeah, but instead he got well known for trash because Batman, it's self-conscious trash. They've made something which is deliberately trashy, gloriously so. But he was in that film Robinson Crusoe in Outer Space.
on Mars or something, wasn't it? Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm just having a look now to see. Yeah, he really.
Did you ever see?
Didn't do a lot, did he? Gosh.
Did you ever see that documentary about how he and his family were campaigning to get his star on the
No.
In where is it, in LA, on the
Hollywood Boulevard?
On the sidewalk.
He absolutely deserves it.
I don't know. I think they finally got it, but they were year after year, and he was getting older and older. Is he still with us? By the way,
no, he's dead now. He died about 2 years ago.
Yeah, I think they managed to get it.
Died in 2017.
Done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's very sad. I think they managed to get it done before he died because he's just getting older and older. They were just worried they wouldn't get the star on the Walk of Fame. Could you find out whether I'm right about that? Can you do some young person internet stuff? It's interesting also during that documentary to see Burt Ward did still know him, although they clearly weren't. I don't know. I can't remember whether they became friends or not. I think they still knew each other.
Yeah, I think it's hard to when you're so well known for something, you either become great friends or you don't, do you? You forget about the whole thing. He got his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. At the age of 83, he got the 2,468th star on the Walk of Fame.
He did he?
Yeah.
When was that, sorry?
And that was a couple of years ago, so that would have been in 2012.
Oh, okay. Oh, so he did live to see it.
He did it, yeah.
But it took a lot of campaigning to get that, because, I think they were a bit snobby about him. But there's something, dare I say it, I'll have to duck as things are thrown at me. There's a lot of similarities between his performance and William Shatner's, isn't there? They've got that kind of over sincerity going on.
They've got that, and also that ability to be utterly serious in the face of things which are clearly utterly ridiculous, like the Gorn, isn't it? Like how you can take that seriously, like
in the Star Trek episode Arena, for anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about.
Go and watch it.
Where Captain Kirk has to battle with a lizard creature to.
They are very similar in that aspect. By the way, Adam West and Burt Ward were fantastic friends.
Oh.
I'm devastated by the loss of one of my very dearest friends. Adam and I had a special friendship for more than 50 years. We shared some of the most fun times of our lives together. Our families have a deep love and respect for each other. It's a terribly unexpected loss of a lifelong friend, and I will forever miss him.
Aww.
Of course, he said, in my eyes, there's only ever one real Batman. It'll always be Adam West. He was truly the bright knight. Of course, an interesting fact for you here is it was only about a year or so before he died that him and Burt Ward reprised their roles as Batman and Robin for a cartoon series.
Oh.
And so he was still doing it up until that point.
Oh, amazing!
So I want to ask you now, Nick. What do you think is so fantastic about Frank Gorshin's performance as the Riddler?
Wow! I mean, the total commitment and the physicality of it. I mean, he is always stretching his body in sort of comic book. It's like he looked at the comic strip and saw, I don't know whether the Riddler did do poses like that, but he's always striking those poses where his legs and I'm doing it now, his legs and arms are at strange angles. And he was leaping around. He never, he'd never walk round a table. He'd always leap over it, wouldn't he?
He's in that spandex outfit as well,
yeah. And the incredible energy. And he was a very successful, highly thought of actor. But, like all of these big stars who played the villains, the Penguin and the Joker as well, they would try and work the schedule round them, wouldn't they? And whenever they were available. I suppose it was quite easy to write a Batman script because there was no requirement for it to make any sense whatsoever.
And I suppose they probably didn't take an awful lot of time to make, because especially a lot of the villain stuff was mostly set bound. There's those familiar scenarios that they have. The villains have some silly ludicrous base, and the fight usually happens in the base, and the villain turns up maybe for one other location, another set bound thing where they do something bad.
Yes, I was going to talk about that when talking about, I don't know how long they took to shoot each episode, but in this first episode there's a brilliant bit once Batman gets involved and goes to Commissioner Gordon's office. They shoot one scene, they do it in 2 shots, but it's mainly 1 shot. And I don't know whether you notice, what happens is they create the close-ups without cutting to them. Yep. So the characters are all milling around and they come into a close-up, talk, and then move away, and another character comes in, and it's a beautiful way of making it easier to shoot, because the camera just basically stays in one position and maybe tracks left and right a little bit. And they only, just at the end, they tracked left, and then we cut back to Batman and Robin. But the only reason we cut there is because it was a bit of optical printing was required to dissolve out of the scene into the next scene, or to cut to the whizzing bit that goes round between scenes where the bat symbol leaps out. And they do quite a lot of that. A lot of scenes are shot, they only cut when it's absolutely necessary. If possible, they will reposition the actor to achieve the shot they want, not reposition the camera. Very much shot in that kind of, like they're looking at a proscenium arch stage, as opposed to sort of going into the set and, doing different angles.
Well, it has got that level of, dare I say it, sort of almost theatre in some of it. They have these big sets, and there's a lot going on on those sets. I think I would say as well, everywhere is used to its absolute full potential. When you think about all the Batcave, Adam West's Wayne Manor, the house, the buildings, the rooms, everything is used to its maximum potential. There's lots of moving around within those spaces. But yeah, you're right, the cameras are pretty static, really. But
and talking of angles, they do that thing that I just thought was amazing, that I didn't notice when I was a kid, but all the crooks, villains' lairs are shot at crooked angles.
Yep.
It's always askance askew, isn't it? Da-da-da-da-da, which was the music for the Joker, I seem to remember. Yeah. And it was always... And I remember years and years and years ago when I was doing a big video project, every time the camera wasn't quite level, the first assistant would look at the picture and go da-da-da-da-da. I go, I think you're a bit Batman on that shot there. And go, oh yeah, sorry, a bit too Batman. Let's get it straight.
Oh, I love all those as well. All those wonderful villains. Cesar Romero as the Joker, who famously wouldn't shave off his moustache.
They just painted
over it. Of course, you've got the Penguin,
Meredith,
who is played by what's his name? He was huge.
Something Meredith.
Burgess Meredith.
Burgess Meredith. That's
who was huge star. He was huge in the war. I mean, in the war, he was the main. He was, I think, big enough star that he did this great short film for the American troops to help them settle into time over here in England.
Yes, I've seen it.
So your English guy might want this, but what you have to do is drink his drink. Have a nice pint of his own ale. It might not be as good as our bottled beer at home, but that's sort of like you said as well, the great physicality between all of these characters. The Joker's very much the same. He's always hands and moving around and laughing. The Penguin, he's got that wonderful walk he does. And
just Benji's doing the walk.
I'm doing the walk, speaking out the side of his mouth. It's... And
I love the way that Batman and Robin, they never walk in and out of scenes. They always run.
Always run, yeah.
they just immediately just run out. I must try that at Big Finish. Have a meeting with Jason. He said, anyway, you must get on with doing the podcast. Yes, bye. And then just go running out of the office
with the cape, leap over furniture, and it's. I love. There's that great line in this which cracked me up, which is when he goes into that. They go into that discotheque, and the person says, "Would you like a table over in the corner, Batman?" No, I don't want to draw any unnecessary attention to myself. Dressed in that gear,
and everyone is looking at him, aren't they? Everyone's kind of going, "Oh!" All the women are going weak at the knees. And by the way, since we're talking about that scene, the dancing.
Oh, well, the famous dance, isn't it? Which has actually got a name now. It's, what is the name called? The dance craze Batsui, it's called. 1960s go-go dance invented for Batman television series. It became known as Batsui.
Why Batsui?
Like Batsui is performed by making a horizontal V sign with one's index and middle fingers of both hands, drawing them across the front of your eyes, away from the centre of your face simultaneously, with eyes roughly between the fingers. So it's that, isn't
Wasn't there the ears as well?
Oh yeah, he was doing that, was he? Pointing upwards.
Pointy ears, and also sort of like this sort of thing. Yeah, and then he was doing all this kind of... wasn't it? He had the moves, didn't he?
It's Adam West, isn't it? It's Batman, man. Of course he had the moves. I think that is one of the things about this all of the casting in this is that everybody was very physical.
Yeah. And when they drug him, when they slip him a Mickey Finn, and he carries on dancing, but in a sort of falling over way. And then, really, the implication is that they haven't poisoned it or drugged it. They've just put a stiff drink in it, because when he gets to the Batmobile later, he's doing drunk acting. They said, "Come on, Batman, give us the keys. You're obviously..." And Batman is just basically steaming drunk. You know, they've not given him an orange juice, which is what he asked for, fresh orange juice. They've stuck a vodka in there.
There's a vodka orange, yeah, and of course he's fully I love that. You can't drive in your condition, Batman. No, you're absolutely right.
Absolutely right. I love you.
Oh, it's
a bit like that. He's doing real proper drunk man acting.
But just again played with complete serious, he just takes it seriously. It's absolutely sublime. I mean, I adore this show.
I thought I was just going to come back and say, "Oh, this is just rubbish," and I remember, it's a big part of my childhood. We always watched it. And when I was a kid, I kind of started realising how stupid it was, and it irritated me. Although the stylishness of it kept me going. I remember my brother, who's 9 years older than me, he'd be laughing his head off while we were watching. He loved it because it was so silly, and my mother was appalled by the silliness of it. And I thought, well, I would be enjoying this if my brother wasn't laughing at it so much. I would be thinking this was exciting, It
is exciting. That's funny though.
But watching it again, it's a brilliant example of something that sets out to do something that you could be questionable about. You could say, "I don't like what it is," but what it sets out to do, it achieves in spades, doesn't it? It absolutely, it is a pastiche, silly bit of nonsense. Well, it's not pastiche. It's kind of, there's nothing quite like this Batman series, is there? No one's ever done anything quite like this.
It doesn't patronise the viewer, which is what I find a lot of silly comedy does nowadays. Is it's sort of slightly patronising, and you feel, "Oh, this is silly." But when you watch this, it's silly, but you don't sit there and think this is just silly. Do you know what I mean? You're watching it and thinking this is ever so silly in what they're doing and this scenario, and it's ludicrous. But you're not sitting there thinking, "Oh, this is just people larking around being a nuisance." I mean, and there's so many good episodes, and even though they're all pretty much identical. Once you work out the formula, every episode is the same. But it's just the silliness that
it always has to end with a huge fight. Sock, pow! All the animated words flying out.
Usually they pick up chairs and things, don't they, and throw them around the room and just have a laugh.
Great use of stuntmen, of course, because Batman is unrecognisable. That because he's got a mask on, suddenly Adam West can appear to do some incredible stunts. Yeah. Likewise, the Riddler in this, they both do this sort of jumping up and down and falling down a hole, don't they?
Oh, it's it's always done so well, and even though it is the same, and those fights are so fun. I used to love those as a kid. I used to have them on VHS. I used to tape them. They used to be on in the day, and I used to run around when the fight music came, and I used to be running around pretending to throw punches. It's all that sort of jazzy absolutely adore it. I mean, there was one episode I watched not so long ago which had this character called the Minstrel in it.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody was saying it was a really terrible episode, like one of the worst ones. But even that I really enjoyed. I thought that was quite fun when he played these little... And the whole thing, he just played these silly songs and did stupid stuff like that.
But they're all terrible, but in the most glorious way. Oh. And listen, talking of the music as you were then, I mean... In some ways, it is the best theme tune ever, isn't it?
Oh, God, everybody knows it. Even if you've not seen it, you kind of know it.
And it is just people shouting the name of the show. It's kids as well. Why did they do kids? Batman! It's just like...
Batman. Yeah,
It's not even a singer, is it? It's just kids shouting it.
But it's just, the only thing I noticed about this first episode, and maybe I'm incorrect, but I'm sure that later on they add more sounds into it, like the more but in this,
I wondered whether they synced them up with more sock powing
I
action
think so.
during the animation. I don't know though. But yes, I had the same feeling also in the first episode when you have the whirly thing that goes into the opening. It doesn't do that, does it? On the first episode, it just whirls in silence and then dun 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 starts. I mean, all the punk bands used to have to do versions of the Batman theme, didn't they, on their albums? I think the Jam did.
The Jam
Batman
did. Yeah, the Jam. Yeah. Let's have a look. How many the Batman theme punk? Let's see how many people did. The Jam,
it's probably just
Hamburglers, who I've never heard of. So I think. Oh, here we go. The Kinks, the Jam, Prince and R.E.M. Of course, Prince did for the film, didn't he?
But he didn't do Batman, did he?
No. Okay, I think what we've come to the conclusion is 2 punk bands did it. But the main one was the Jam.
Exaggerated, yes.
But Nelson Riddle is the mastermind behind the music.
Yeah, he did all the incidental music for this episode. I'm sure he can't have done the entire series.
He did. He did He did it for the film as well. He did everything.
Wow.
He did absolutely everything. But
what else did he do?
Well, not a lot. I've got it up here. I mean, he
was
did
too
things,
busy
but
doing
nothing.
Batman.
The only other thing out of these that I recognise that he did was El Dorado in 1966.
All right, big movie.
After that, yeah, he did The Great Gatsby 74.
Okay, that's big.
Great Bank Robbery 1969. Going Coconut 78. Ocean's 11 1960. That's quite good.
Wow. Okay, come on. He's
in Major League, isn't he? When did he pass away? Assuming that he did. Yeah, 85.
Yeah, and when he did, it went.
He's worked with loads of big people. He's worked with Frank Sinatra, Ella Fitzgerald, Nat King Cole, Peggy Lee, Dean Martin. He's done a fair old
the real
whack.
deal. Well, and that music, his music really binds together the production. And another binding force, which I mentioned last time round, is the voiceover. Am I right in saying that the voiceover was, in fact, the producer? The voiceover guy. Will Batman? That really bizarre intonation. And no other voiceover artist has ever, or had ever, spoken like that.
Let's have a look.
It's bizarre as well because it gets introduced halfway through the first episode, doesn't it? Did you notice that?
Yeah,
there's no VO at the beginning. It just halfway through, suddenly voiceover appears that wasn't there, and it's really odd. And then from then on, it's at the beginning of every episode. In the last episode. And all this kind of same time, same back channel.
Yeah, same bad time, same bad channel. Yeah, it's William Dozier, executive producer, creator, and uncredited narrator.
Yeah. But they couldn't get anyone to do it the way he wanted it, and then eventually he kept doing it, and they just said, "Why don't you do it then?"
But there's some great people, looking at the cast and the villains and people like that. Obviously, you've got your main Cesar Romero, Burgess Meredith, and Frank Gorshin. You've got Julie Newmar, of course, Catwoman.
Yeah.
Who's
just been in a Big Finish production.
Yeah, well, that's what I was about to say.
Just Dark Shadows. Yeah.
She was in Dark Shadows. Yeah, and there's others here as well. George Sanders, Otto Preminger, David Wayne, Vincent Price.
Yeah, Vincent. Egghead, was he?
He was Egghead, yeah.
Yeah.
Cliff Robertson. Yeah, there's lots of... Who played King Tut? Victor Buono.
I don't know.
But I loved King Tut was good. I love Mr. Freeze.
Oh, Mr. Freeze, yes.
It's just...
That was Arnie in the movie, wasn't it?
Ice to see you.
Many years later.
Just the other thing I want to point out, because I forgot to say it earlier, I always love with this how Robin always gets every riddle. He gets it all, and they're always so absolutely, there was one in the film where he says something like the answer to the riddle is a ballpoint banana pen, and he just gets it, and he's really like, well, that's easy, Batman, it's a ballpoint banana pen. Great thinking, Robin. Absolute. I have to see. Hold on, let me see.
It's delightful, isn't it? Do you know, I was near to tears of nostalgia watching this. It really warmed the cockles of my heart. I loved it. Much more than I thought I would. Going back to it, I thought, So excellent. I'm giving it 5 exclamation marks.
Oh, it's an absolute 5 out of 5 for me, without a question at all. I've got a couple of riddles for you here, Nick. If you would like to.
I thought you were looking something up there.
Yeah. So, why is a musician's band? Why is a musician's bandstand like an oven?
Because it's a banana ballpoint pen.
No,
Batman.
No. This is quite
Why
a good
is a
one,
musician's
actually.
stand like a what?
Why is a bandstand like an oven? Why is a musician's bandstand like an oven?
I don't know. Why?
Because it's where he makes his bread. That's quite a good one, I think.
Is that from Batman?
Yeah, it's from Batman, yeah.
Okay, let's have another one.
Okay, let's have a look. How much dirt is in a hole 3 acres square and 200 feet deep?
Go on, tell me.
None, because it's a hole.
Holy mackerel!
What room can no one enter?
I don't know.
A mushroom. Yes. Well, this one. Here's a good one.
Riddles.
Hold on. What people are always in a hurry?
I don't know.
There goes rushing people. And then they go Russians. Then Robin says, "I've got it. Someone Russian is going to slip on a banana peel and break their neck." And then Batman says, "Exactly, Robin. It's the only possible answer." And, what has yellow skin and rights? A ballpoint banana. You know, absolute gold. Yeah, it's just beautiful.
How many exclamation marks from you?
5, man. 5. I'd give it 6 if I could. I love it.
Yeah.
I highly recommend anybody out there get the box set. If you can get it on Blu-ray, get it, because they've done a great restoration. It looks gorgeous HD. It's glorious.
So, I was just changing scene there. So next time,
okay.
Yeah, I'm speaking without having an idea.
They're the best ideas, aren't they?
Yeah,
They're the ones that you kind of, you don't quite know where it's going to go.
Next time, a lot's going to happen. Next time, we're going to do something crazy and
we're
unexpected.
We're going to build the pyramids, aren't we? That's what we're going to do. We're going to build a pyramid in 5 minutes.
And also we're meeting up for other reasons next time, so that's next week. So we'll record something together. I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know what I'm going to record it on. But aside from that, it's all perfectly fine. But we'd love you to keep an eye on the Benji and Nick Facebook page and the Nicholas Briggs official page for announcements about what we're going to do. We'd love you to write to us on those Facebook pages to suggest crazy things for us to talk about. Tell us your favourite TV programmes and movies. And also write to podcast@nicholasbriggs.com about all that stuff, and we will we'll cook something.
It's a bit of a wild card episode we're going to go for, because
we'll be in Trafalgar Square at 3 p.m. on Wednesday.
Well, it occurred to us that we're meeting up, and so we should probably do something, because we don't meet up every week, do we? We're busy old souls, and so we're often in different places. So this is an ideal time to have some merriment.
Yes.
A little
all right,
jig.
then. I suppose it's time to...
Yeah, maybe come close to the microphone like that. Well, it's goodbye from me.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
That old chestnut.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Pressing stop.